the PricePlow Podcast, live from New York. We have David Dodrill of Arms Race Nutrition. David, welcome to the podcast. We have a lot to talk about, including, I hear we're going to be learning about the new Harness Evolution pre-workout supplement today, and this will be posting on February 13th. So by then, the cat's going to be out of the bag. How's it going?
It's going great. You just made me feel like this was Saturday Night Live by saying live from New York. I liked it.
Yeah, so you're not from New York, but you're out there. You're pretty much like, when I talk about you, I just say like you're the VP of everything at Arms Race. But we'd love to hear about your background. Some people are either going to know exactly who you are because you're everywhere in the industry, but other people are not going to have a clue who you are. So if you don't mind, give us a big introduction where you fit in the puzzle and what you're doing in New York.
I'm kind of everywhere, right? Like I live in Ohio. I'm there on the weekends. Usually throughout the week, I am off traveling, visiting stores, just kind of doing my role from the road. You know, I felt like a lot of work was remote now, and yes, we're all under the core umbrella, but with Arms Race, the whole idea was an influencer driven brand. Well, what better way than to one person go out and visit every single person? I feel like it really does a connection with people, and no one else does it in my role. So it's pretty fun, but I'm always kind of everywhere. And it's not that strategically planned at all. We're going to be honest.
So you mentioned the core umbrella. You mean like the Core Nutritional is owned by Doug Miller, who we've had on this podcast. We've been on his podcast and everything. How did that relationship start? Isn't there a pretty cool story behind it? Like you basically said that you're just going to get in a van and start selling this stuff, or like, I forget what exactly happened.
Yeah. I mean, the full story was kind of cool. Let me backtrack my GNC days real fast. So for GNC, I started doing business and law. So I worked at a law firm for about 3 years. Wasn't for me. I felt like with law, I did criminal and bankruptcy, and with that, you really couldn't pick and choose your clients. Like it is what it was. Just wasn't for me, and I left that. And then I used to weigh 430 pounds. I lost about 190 in a year, and then that really just got me into the fitness world. I had my own billboard. Ooh, this is ironic. In Times Square, New York, right over there. So after that, I just really fell in love with the fitness world. I got a little bit addicted to it. We all do, right? You see one little bit of change, you just really get addicted to this lifestyle. And what happened from there was I owned my own meal prep company for a year. I sold that off, and I didn't really have to work at the time. And then I had a friend reach out to me who's like, hey, you're known locally. Would you mind working at GNC? And then after that, I got promoted every 2 weeks. Got my own store in 2 weeks. And then from there, I just kept getting higher volume stores. Eventually brought me to Columbus, Ohio. And then I was up for a job in Pittsburgh around the time. And I was really struggling with the idea of, I wanted to grow within the GNC walls. But there was a lot of changes there. And during those changes, COVID happened. And the way pay was in GNC changed. And for me, that change was a big hit. I was in $1 million store. And, I'm not all about money, but when I do not have something to chase anymore, that got frustrating for me on a personal level. So I loved the brand Arms Race when it came in. It launched in September of 2019. And they scheduled an event to do at my store on Arnold Weekend 2020 March. So really excited for it. Kent Ningle, he used to be with Arms Race. Me and him kept in contact a lot during that. And what ended up happening was, the big pandemic, and essentially they canceled, right? And when they canceled, Doug Miller and Patrick Mabe showed up, and they still dropped off shirts. They still let me hold the event without Julian. But we had an amazing day. But I met Doug that day, and he kind of asked me on the spot. He's watched me sell to some people. He's like, do you want to come to Virginia and work for the Nutrition Corners? And I was like, no, I don't want to move. We just went through this whole thing with the possibility of moving to Pittsburgh for GNC. And with the pay change, a year goes by, and I'm looking at my friend who actually ended up becoming the VP of Cage Muscle at the time. And he started watching me just sell Arms Race. And he's like, why are you selling Arms Race so much? And I was like, they were really good people. He's like, but you don't get paid to sell it. And I was like, so? And he's like, so you're telling me that the relationship just from meeting them makes you sell it more than money would? Because the former way of selling a GNC is, hey, what did you get a PM on? I'm very open about this. So this is, sorry, GNC. Um, but they don't have that anymore, so we're good. But I was like, yeah, it was the relationship. And then it all clicked to me. With COVID happening, GNC really focused on like masks and hand sanitizer. It was a weird time. No fault to their own, but there was no more marketing around arms race. So I pitched an idea to Doug, and I was like, what if you, and it wasn't even for me. I was like, what if you guys had somebody that kind of just traveled and built that relationship with people to grow the brand, let them know it's there. Because at the time it sat in a gondola in the back and no one knew it was there. There was no marketing. There was no focus on it. You have a new product there, but it's a pandemic. No one really is focused on it. And Doug's like, okay, well, you're pitching all this, but you're not telling me if you want the job. And I was like, I didn't think about that. And I was like, yes. And I was driving around stores with my boss at the time, and I told him, I was like, hey, I got to talk with Doug Miller. And he's like, what? Like, what's going on? So I stayed in the car, and Doug's like, okay, well, can you do me a favor? And I was like, yeah. He's like, get me numbers. How much will it cost me? What do you need? And so I reached out to some of my friends in the industry, and I was like, hey, when you started out with this company, what was the car stock like? What did you need? And he broke down on the numbers. So I called Doug back the next day, and I was like, this is the numbers. This is what I'd be asking for salary. And Doug goes, well, that salary is a little bit too much. You're going to earn it, David. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I'll call you back if Julian accepts. And sure enough, he called the next day. He's like, can you be in Virginia Monday? And I'll tell you part of this story I don't think I've ever told Doug, but there was a huge snowstorm on that Monday, like one of the worst in Ohio ever. So I spent my own money. I rented this white SUV and I drove to Virginia because my car would not make it. And I left at 2 a.m. that day and went to HQ. Doug, I sat in the office with Doug, and he's like, yeah, it's Monday, so we have the arms race call at 2 o'clock. So not to put pressure on you, but if you sign this contract, you can be in the meeting. And I'm like, he's like, with no pressure, you can not sign it, take a week to think about it. And I was like, well, I kind of want to be on this meeting. So signed the contract, had a good meeting, loaded up in car stock, drove back to Columbus that day. And yeah, I've been driving ever since, to be completely honest. It's not stopped or slowed down from there. But it's been a lot of fun along the way. But Doug entrusted a lot in me, and I like to hope that I met his expectations of what this was.
That van life, you like just live the van lifestyle. That's like a big like online thing. It's like living a van lifestyle. It's like you don't live it until you do like what Dave does. Like like you live out of that thing.
I do. I don't sleep in it. There have been times where tire pops on the road at 11 p.m. You got to take a nap in the van. But that's the beauty of it too. I've learned to adapt to certain things, my lifestyle. I just like, I've always made this excuse of like tracking macros and stuff. Like I'm very still heavily in the bodybuilding lifestyle. So I just bought a big freezer to sit in the back of the van now. So I have not fallen off my diet in weeks. But yes, I now live the van lifestyle. I eat out of the van as well. I'll pack all my meals on Sunday and just stop at Pilots and Sheets and Wawa's and find some microwaves and heat up my food so I can still, hopefully look a certain way by the end of the year. So I'm very excited about that one. But yeah, it's definitely a fun van lifestyle for me.
Just out of curiosity, because I want to keep moving, but you gave us a little bit of your life. You told us that you weighed 430 pounds, and you said you lost all this weight. You got all this, but there was a point in your life where you were incredibly like shredded and muscular. I see pictures, but I have not figured out where in the timeline this sits. Like you were competing in bodybuilding at some point. Where does that fit into your whole life?
So that was the law firm. When I had the 9 to 5, eating your meals was very easy to get in. I got into Rob Bailey during that time frame. I know I talked about that. But yeah, I mean, my diet was so regimented. My very last show, ironically enough, and I love telling the story, was against a 19-year-old by the name of Christopher Bumstead. And I saw that guy and I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to stop competing. And I stopped competing from there, but I kind of got the itch again. I'll never be Chris Bumstead, but it's that discipline factor to it. I really miss the eating cold broccoli just because you got to get it in. And current day, it feels miserable about it, but back then it just didn't. But yeah, it was mostly the law firm years, getting into GNC, and I think GNC is when like I just kind of became sedentary. Like you eat those snacks at work, and you're still lifting the same, but your life's a little bit more hectic. You don't got that time to just sit down and schedule your meals like you did when you work a 9 to 5.
Cool. Are you currently still carnivore or some sort of variation of that?
No, I completely ended carnivore.
Okay.
I hired a coach for this year. Oh, I didn't hire her; she did it for free. Um, but yeah, I got a new coach. One of the core employees is coaching me to hopefully compete again early next year. So she's kind of helping my metabolism to get out of the carnivore aspect. I loved carnivore. I thought it worked incredibly well for me with being a larger person when I was younger. Inflammation, and I had arthritis at 13 years old. So my knees, my ankles, carnivore really did help with that. So currently not doing it. I'm not going to say no, never again. Eating steak is by far my favorite thing in the entire world. But no, I'm not on carnivore anymore.
Cool. So let's get into arms race. We have a lot of cool things in the docket, specifically to talk about the new harness evolution. But I don't know if you guys wanted to talk about anything before we get into that, because we haven't really had an arms race podcast before.
Right. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff so we covered a lot of your stuff over the last year and a half or so. And we recently named you the Breakout brand of 2022. I had you in the running for brand of the year until we kind of broke it down more, and it was just arms race wasn't there yet, but I was very, very excited and bullish on arms race. And that was selfishly because I'm using a lot of your stuff, and Clarity and Night Night especially were great launches in 2022 for me personally. And then Stabilize hers is actually, I don't do a full dose of my wife, but that's even in the stack. So I mentioned that on the podcast. So we have a lot. There's a lot we can cover. So 2022 is a pretty big year. A lot of people are of course going to want to hear about the harness evolution as well, which as we record this is not yet live, but we will be teasing it with this podcast. So if you want to talk about the past or talk about the future, I'm down for either one, whatever you're most excited about.
Yeah, I'll cover actually the story of arms race because I think it's really fun. It all comes full circle. So people wonder why Doug does so many brands, right? They're always like, oh, he's always starting something new. And I love it. I think I made a comment the other day at HQ. It's like Doug's a dream. And it's absolutely amazing because he's in this position to where he lives so passionately about what he does. And if he sees a good idea that resonates with him, he wants to go for it. So arms race originally started with Core trying to get Julian for an athlete. And, we're all a part of this industry to where people brand hop like a lot. And Julian had this idea. He's like, listen, I could be an athlete for Core, but I was with Optimum. I was just with bodybuilding.com. The next thing I have to do has to be my last thing. He's like, the more you hop around, it just kind of devalues you and your word. It's like, oh, this is the best pre-workout. No, now this is the best pre-workout. So I really love that story because it just kind of shows that Julian, just at the start, cared about the way he influenced, right? He didn't want to just keep changing. He wanted his influence to mean something. So he said the next thing he has to do has to be his last thing. And that's kind of Doug instantly went, well, we can do that. We have the manpower. We already have Core. And so arms race kind of resonated from that. And people always ask, where does arms race come from? Well, Julian has the arms race gym in Oregon. It's not military related. I just always have to say that. That's my biggest question I got. Julian is very pro military and firefighter and policeman, but the name and everything does kind of stem from the Julian gym and making everything as authentic as possible. And we want to do an influencer brand the right way. And the right way was making products that were so good that God forbid Julian was hit by a bus, the products would still stand on their own without his influence. And I just truly feel at this point we have done an amazing job with that. Old school dedication, modern science. We've really tried to change the game in regards of what are people not doing and what do we want to take? And that's the whole aspect of it. Like I think you guys know the core family more than anybody. But we don't look out there and be like, okay, we want to hop on this bandwagon or this bandwagon. It's more so, what do we want? And we just launch it in hopes that people like what we like. So I think it's really authentic from that perspective. And on, the way Arms Race has grown, we make things that not necessarily, I would say, is the most popular category, but it's things that we're passionate about. So I really just love the aspect of what we do. So that's really the background and story of Arms Race. I just think the story is so important to tell. I feel like I was going to struggle with this aspect of, oh, you guys just started another brand and you just dump Fury into the harness canister. And it's like, no, it's a completely different aspect. It's authentic to what we really like. And I like to think, Dave Reinecke helps a lot with formulation, but we do kind of make sure that Julian approves of every single thing. His style of training and what he wants is very different than what Doug wants. But there's like this personality part of Doug that is more Arms Race. Arms Race and Core couldn't be further apart of the personalities. Probably the only reason I'm smoking a cigar right now is because I can. If this was Core, I'd probably have to wear a pull-up. But the aspect is we're authentic to who we are, and we just really hope other people kind of resonate to that.
I've been loving seeing you and Patrick on the road together, because like what you're talking about, like the two different personalities between Core and Arms Race, you and Patrick are probably the best people for those respective brands. Patrick lives the crush it Core lifestyle, the natural bodybuilding, 6 meals a day, no matter what, and not to say that you are any less of a fitness enthusiast or father or any of it. It's just two different stabs at the same thing. And it's really cool to see you guys travel together, because these two brands are now both in Vitamin Shop. For anyone who's listening and wants to know why, these guys are now traveling and hitting these stores together, whereas you previously would have been separate.
Yeah, it's also we noticed pretty well in the at the Arnold last year that the booths were right across from each other, but the demographic is clearly very different between the brands. So I've actually been personally emailed by someone we had a PricePlow alert go out for two different things. One was for Core, one was for Arms Race the same day. And I got a response like, hey, Mike, and if you reply to those contact@priceplow.com emails, they come to me. And so one guy said, Mike, how does Doug or someone like Mark Lobliner, how do they do so many brands? And can he possibly believe in all that? They compete against each other. Like, what's the story there? And to me, it's like these brands don't compete against each other at all. They definitely chase different demographics. And like for America Labs, it has the F-bomb pre-workout. You're not going to see that type of pre-workout in Core or Arms Race. And, so different attitudes, different demographics, but it does give you under that one roof, if you're a big fan of this crew of guys, it gives you a lot of options too. Like, I like some stuff from Core, but I'm more on like Arms Race like lately in some of these formulations as well. But like for instance, it gives you more options. For instance, sleep aids. I like night. There's no melatonin in it, and melatonin is a kind of a divisive ingredient. But if you do like melatonin, Core Z's actually has, and it's spelled ZZZ, that actually does have like 4 or 5 milligrams of melatonin. So you have like different options, and these are completely different products. So that's one way I discuss how like someone like Doug can be owner or part owner of multiple brands and not have like conflicts of interest, but it gives you more optionality. So you don't have to do everything from one brand unless you're like really, really all in to support Julian or something like that. But I like to pick and choose out of the family.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's really cool about it. I definitely think it's different personalities of Doug, and obviously Julian's influence as well. But it's a way. I think at the end of the day, we just want to win, right? We just want to create some cool stuff. No matter who wins or if anybody wins, it's really just kind of creating like, I don't ever believe that the goal is to build the brands to sell them and just, tongue-in-cheek marketing. It's truly completely different aspects of life. I think Core, they teeter more on this lifestyle brand at this point. And I would say Arms Race is more bodybuilding, but casual lifestyle. It's like I don't want to say it, but it's the average lifter that likes to smoke a little. You know what I mean? It's just a certain vibe.
I would
Cigars,
say,
of
I
course.
honestly would say it's like the above average lifter that smokes a little, because like when I went to that event down in North Carolina, like everyone there was big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like I mean, I guess though, I get your point. Like the average lifter is above average from the normal person, right? So sometimes I get a
Yeah.
little jaded over like, you know, like I think everyone is as into this stuff as we are, and you take a step back in a normal gym and you realize how many not fit people there are. But your
Does the
people
Yeah,
are
by no
fit.
means am I fit right now. And I went to a Crunch Fitness in Jersey, and I'm like, I have the biggest arms here. I feel sad
Yeah.
about this. Like, I'm not in that great of shape right now.
Yeah, but when you go to a normal gym, you see that. You see how further everyone is.
If you want to tell a story again, you can. I was going to ask about the labels, like the brown paper labels. Does that something to do with like the cigar wrapper tobacco or something like that?
That's what I like to say now. I think it does give a classic cigar look. Um, but there's that other part of me. I will not touch on Kenton's original vision. Um, so I can't really, I was not around during that. Um, all I can say is, to me, when I first saw the labels, it was a classier look in a store. You at this current day, you have all these just bright labels, and every brand that comes out now, they all look the same. They're cartoony. They're trying to get that younger generation. I really think the labels just stand out among themselves. They're just so different.
Mhm.
So I personally, I do relate it to cigars.
I
Cool.
like that it does feel like a cigar look, or you know, any of that, but even just like non-specifically, like just the fact that it, not that I have a problem with cartoony labels, you know, I get a good laugh out of
No,
that, but
yeah,
like it's a nice shift, you know, like it is, and it's nice to see like a more mature sports brand that presents as more mature too. Like we have a lot of sports
yes,
brands that mean well, but you guys have really brought like all around 360 degrees, like a mature discussion to the market on this stuff. So I also just like everything old school. I've always appreciated old school.
yeah, no, absolutely, and it's really interesting too. Like we don't, I wouldn't say we necessarily pull an older demographic with it. Um, if I could ever compare us to anybody in like the mainstream world, I think Ghost is Nike, and they took that, and I like to think that we're kind of the Vans of the industry, just completely dad moves. Like that's more so, who we are, right? Like we all wear Vans. You had to buy Vans after being with us in October.
Yeah.
But that's really like my goal with this. I want to be just this off-brand thing that everybody can relate to.
You know, it is to me like I owned Vans in high school, I owned Vans in college, you know, like whatever, but like I don't mind owning them again, you know,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of how I look at it. Like it, everyone can kind of relate to it. It's kind of funny when we were at that event, we were listening to music that I listened to in high school, you know, like it's okay to still listen to it now, you know, like it was kind of cool that like they're all very familiar topics, very familiar, you know, whatever, but it's still fun to be around. It doesn't have to be all new things.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the obsessions in fitness, young fitness culture, especially with TikTok and stuff, is this obsession with like new trends and stuff. But when I was around your team, everyone's very comfortable. Everyone is, you know, fun to be around, and it doesn't feel too young and trendy. It just feels comfortable, like very family-esque.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think we pride ourselves on that the most. Like the arms race community, they're so unique, and there's people from all walks of life, but everybody treats everybody like family, and it's an incredible experience to be a part of, truly. So like I honestly, the day you left, I was like, I really hope that you got to see the brand, right? Like, and you kept telling me at the time, you're like, like it's Julian just stood around a fire with all his fans and just got to hang out with them at the end of the night. Like, not a lot of people do that, and it's that down to earth aspect. We're not
Yeah.
better than anybody. We're not. We're a family. We appreciate you supporting us, but at the end of the day, like, we're here for you guys. So
Yeah.
it's really awesome to be a part of that.
Yeah, it was funny. Supply side, before Mike came out, Julian spent a night with us. We went out to what where did we go with you guys for that cigar?
Uh,
Caesars?
it was in Caesar's, yeah,
Yeah.
Caesar's Palace.
And we ended up going on like a 1 a.m. adventure for In-N-Out Burger that took a lot of twists and turns. We almost got frostbite. We like literally almost died on the strip, like getting to In-N-Out. And it's so fun because, you know, like we get to hang out with a bunch of these quote unquote influencers, and a lot of people forget that they're real people.
Yeah.
And it is it's really refreshing when you get to spend time with someone where it's not at a meet and greet,
Yes.
and especially when Julian does meet and greet type stuff, it doesn't feel like a meet and greet, so it felt good to spend some time with someone and just be like a normal human being, because I think a lot of people lose the human aspect when they become like an influencer of sorts, and I think if you can maintain that and you can continue to project that and put that in the content, I think that's when you win, which I think you guys do a good job with.
Yeah, Julian is like one of the most down to earth humans. The one thing I'll always applaud him on is at events and stuff. We got the Arnold coming up, but he always does this thing to where he'll talk and he'll have all his fans stand around in a circle. He'll just keep inviting them in. And I think that's the culture, right? Everybody matters to him. And it's really amazing. Like, he's not there to charge you for a picture. He's not there to, just try to get money from you. He truly cares, and he'll always remember you. And then he'll message you on Instagram later. Hey, so thank you for, coming out. He'll remember the stories. It's that part of Julian is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I hate come across as starstruck or anything like that, but like the few times that I've gotten to hang out with Julian, every time I come back he like remembers exactly who I was, and that's not something you expect, and that's just out of like just understanding that, look, we have 13,000 followers just on Instagram alone, and I understand that like every DM that I get, I don't remember the people who they are, so like you do your best, but to realize that he has over 1 million and he's able to remember faces, at least, like that's really impressive, and it means that he's putting some effort into it, so that's always really cool to be around, get like a little DM from him later and be like, oh wow, okay, like this guy is actually being present through that, and and it's not even like talk trash about other influencers. Like, I understand that a lot of this is very overwhelming, but you can tell he puts a lot of effort into remembering that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. He cuts off some time. Like, he definitely struggles with I don't mean to speak for him, but the aspect of always being on your phone and things like that. So like, he has apps that kind of even block him out for a certain time.
I need that.
And I think it's like 2 p.m. Like, he doesn't pick up his phone till 2 p.m. But he goes in this like time frame and he responds to like just everybody he possibly can. But I think that part's amazing too, right? Because that's a whole nother job. It's, bringing your phone out and being like, okay, I want to make sure I respond. I don't want to disrespect this person. Like, he truly cares. And then again, just focusing on your mental health with the whole influencer stuff is pretty cool to me. Like, it's not like he's just on his phone like, okay, I got to do this all day long. He has a time like separated for that. So I think that part is really admirable on his part.
Seriously. All right, well, let's talk some product. I think
Supplements.
I think it's time to get into some. I really want to get into Harness Evolution. We have a lot of other ones to talk about for sure, but maybe could we talk a little bit about like, what has Harness been for you guys, and why was Harness Evolution a necessary move?
So it's the new stuff. We were noticing ourselves. I think Harness is still to this day like one of the best daily drivers. But looking at the industry, we had a couple ideas floating around, because we are in the household of Core redid and did Fury 2. What could Harness do? Like, what's the newness in Harness? And we wanted something that was just very Harness-esque, but it's like, what do you call it? I don't want to up the caffeine. And when we talk about it, Harness Evolution is not a higher stim than regular Harness, because we believe that there's a certain milligram of caffeine that you need. You don't want to bend that. So we just wanted a little bit more ingredients. We wanted a different feel. And we wanted to pack it as full as many ingredients as we possibly could that are patented. So we really just felt that need. This isn't your daily driver. This would be your leg day pre-workout. Then you can go back to Harness, because we're not trying to. Harness will still be available when this is out. This will be a $59.99 pre-workout, but it's going to be something that's just fun taking for when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
To where the previous products will still work and you'll still feel the effects and you'll still like it.
You have the same amount of stim in there. So in a lot of ways, it really is exactly an evolution. You added in, but didn't really change the core mission of it. What I would say still kind of rings true. And which is so funny too to me, because Harness you and I have talked about this. Like some people mistakenly take 1 scoop instead of going for the 2, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't very high stim." Like, you take 2 scoops of harness, it's a lot that's going on in your body.
Yes. And that's the thing. Like you can't, a lot of people are ingrained in that, right? Like the 1 scoop, it's hard to train every consumer that it should be 2 scoops. But for the ones that really do love this stuff, that's what evolution was for. The
Yeah.
ingredient aspect to it.
So I guess we could start getting into it. Mike, do you want to maybe put it on your screen, or how do you want to do it?
Let me see if
It'd be nice if we could compare the
my
two.
share screen's not working.
Oh shit.
It hasn't worked for a few months. No, I mean we could edit it in if you want, but there's also a lot of people have been listening on audio feeds. So I mean, so yeah, at some point you're gonna be able to look at the label by the time this publishes. So it'll be in the show notes as well, and that's all going to be linked up top. So in general, total caffeine content in 2 scoops. So this is the full the clinical doses of a lot of these ingredients, but not all. I mean, you can get some clinical dosing actually in 1 scoop here, and that's what's cool.
Yep.
In 2 scoops, though, we're going to have a total yield of caffeine that's right around 400 milligrams of caffeine, depending on how you do your math. But it's 350 milligrams total. Oh, okay. You changed a few things. So you have 300 milligrams total of caffeine anhydrous, and then you have 150 milligrams of the extended release Zoom XR, which yields, give or take, that's going to be roughly 100 more milligrams of caffeine or so, right?
Correct.
And so that's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of Zoom XR. That's actually in Miracle Labs' Boom pre-workout, and don't take it too close to bed, I would say, because this stuff does really extend the hit of caffeine. So you're going to get a longer. You're going to get a longer time period. So right when that caffeine and anhydrous is starting to like possibly peak or wane, that's when the Zoom XR picks up on it. So right off the bat, you're going to have roughly the same amount of caffeine as 2 scoops of harness. Then you start getting fun though, like going up to the top of the label. You are using 3.2 grams of beta alanine per scoop. So you're going to have a full 6.4 gram dose of beta alanine in a 2 scoop serving, which for those who get the paresthesia tingles, it's gonna bring it. And what's cool though is the goal with beta alanine, you're trying to get to saturation faster and carnosine saturation. So it's the precursor to carnosine to help buffer lactic acids and help prolong endurance. So there are a few additional studies, and we're gonna have to do a blog post on this eventually, citing those as well. A few studies show even better improvements on the 6.4 gram dose there. So I like that because it gives us a few more things to talk about. But in general, you're going to get to saturation faster, and that's the plan. Citrulline.
Didn't I see some study? Not to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah,
but have you guys seen the study with over 9 grams?
No, have I?
I haven't.
I saw it the other day. There's a new study over.
Oh, really?
Because I thought it was really interesting to because again, I'm not saying you have to stack Daily Pump with this, but you technically could, given the new study with I think it was 9.4 grams.
Oh, really?
Beta alanine. But I read that, I think it was like 3 days ago, but it's going to be very interesting.
This would put
okay. Well, yeah, if we'll try to find that, and if we do, it'll be posted in the show notes. Thanks for letting us know. No one sent that over. So, awesome. Yeah. So like citrulline, the main nitric oxide ingredient, you had 5 grams in a harness. Now we're at 3 grams per scoop, so 6 grams. So you're upping the energy blend roughly the same, but you're upping the ergogenics, you're upping the pump. You have 2.5 grams of betaine. I don't even know if that was in harness.
Nope. No, we should say around this dosage is where we should start noticing V-nitrox was pulled out. But that made room for the nitrosogene, really.
Yeah, V-nitrox is a grape and apple seed extract, but then you removed a little bit, but man, you're going to make up for it because betaine, if you drink enough water, is going to help with the hyperhydration type aspects. It's an osmolyte. There's a lot of studies on muscle gains and fat loss, like great methyl donator. This is donor, and so it's a really good solid ingredient. We've seen a lot of pre-workouts lately, but then tyrosine dose 1 gram per scoop, 2 grams in 2 scoops. So that seems to be like we seem to have leveled up the industry and a lot of the tyrosine dosing. And sadly to say, like a lot of people are sleep deprived these days, and tyrosine in combination with caffeine does help with that. Obviously, like you're going to, Arms Race is all about holistic health and turning off your phones before bed. If you got to take some night, take some night, but like get that blue light off and, get some sleep. But this is like, if I'm sleep deprived, I generally do reach for a tyrosine caffeine combo pre-workout like this.
Yeah.
And then Ben, nitrosogene, which Ben has plenty of videos discussing. That's going to be the full, clinical dose, inositol bound arginine silicate that's in 2 scoops, 1.5 grams. So not only are you getting 6 grams of citrulline, you're getting a ton of pump here. You're going to get the nitrosogene as well. So you're like beyond clinical on citrulline, you're clinical on nitrosogene. And then even lower for the pumps, skipping a couple ingredients. We have vasodrive. Dude, it's
Well,
this is
we definitely shouldn't skip the
we're not.
Sant Energy.
No. And so that's one of those ingredients. I kind of get off on these ingredients when because I do like swimming as my cardio and I notice breathing patterns a lot. This is one of those that helps oxygenation, helps with lung capacity. I'm not sure I'm saying it properly, but it helps with the bronchodilation is what I'm looking for. So one of those more oxygen support ingredients. And so for me, I get excited when I see these types of ingredients because they seem to help me last longer, we'll just say.
Yep.
So that's fun pre-workout, man. And then we have caffeine, and then we have the vasodrive. So now this is actually working nitric oxide, or it's working the pump from a different angle here. Where this is an ACE inhibitor, so it's going to help restrict your blood flow restrictors. And so this is more playing defense. And this seems to be a Doug Miller favorite ingredient. I'm starting to we see a lot of vasodrive with Doug. So yeah, I'm guessing he sees some arm pump on that. So it's pretty much everywhere. So not surprising to see that there. And that's actually a cool ingredient derived from casein proteins. And then we have your choline source. Was that?
I was just gonna say, one thing that I picked up from Hector Lopez with vasodrive was that it makes my pumps stay around longer.
Yes.
Like, it's defensive in terms of making a bigger pump by the way of the pathway. It's defensive, but it's also defensive in like the amount of time that it sticks around, which to me makes you wonder if there's like a recovery aspect to it as well. And relating it to Julian's training, kind of what David was talking about before, that like, like Ryan Ecke helps a lot with the formulas, but it also has to kind of meet the brand of Julian. Like Julian's all about that pump. Whereas, like I'm very much like a progressive overload person. He's very much like a blood driving person, and especially on like weird exercises he does. But bringing a lot of this pump stuff in here is it's a big message that it brings those nutrients in, hopefully for more recovery. I think is really kind of like what Julian talks a lot about. So it makes sense for the brand is one thing I wanted to note. But yeah, keep going on Elevate TP.
Oh yeah, then after that we have we have City Choline is the choline source, 250 milligrams in 2 scoops. That one, to me, that's the feel good version of choline. That's one I feel, and you kind of like the dopamine boosting version of choline. So I'm not going to call it stimulatory, but it kind of feels good. And then Elevate ATP. Now this, we've talked a lot about Peak ATP lately. That was in Core Peak. Elevate ATP is completely different. It's apple peat and apple, ancient peat and apple extracts. And so this is actually a bunch of polyphenols that helps your body produce more of its own, more ATP itself. Whereas an ingredient like Peak ATP, you're just adding disodium ATP directly. This is like an ATP help you generate ATP ingredient. ATP, of course, is like our energy and currency in cells and stuff. So they have a few studies showing improved performance because of that. But it is mostly like a lot of polyphenols and some minerals inside. If you go back a few studies, they cite there's a 2010 study where we could show like what the ingredients were, at least in that 2010 study. And hopefully they haven't changed it too much, but there's like some stuff like quercetin, there's like caffeolic acid. There's a bunch of stuff that you see in a lot of these fruits that are generally pretty beneficial for like cellular energy production. So that's LFATP. Then we have the Zoom XR, part of our caffeine blend, prolonging in that caffeine. We're still going. We have Cognatic. Is that how you pronounce it? That's how I've been pronouncing it. They renamed they renamed Neurofactor, the coffee fruit extract, that it's like kind of nootropic, brain-derived neurotrophic factor increaser. I don't know why they did that, but it was called Neurofactor. Any new product now needs to call it Cognatic with Cognatique. It ends with IQ. And then, and so you have 100 milligrams there. For that ingredient, I just generally feel, it just feels good. I don't know, it just seems like the first time I noticed it was with like PE Science Prolific. I was like, there's something a little just extra in there. And I attribute it to that ingredient. Every time I have it, I just like it a little more, but I don't notice my memory getting better. I just notice I like the pre-workouts that have it more.
It's like
and
when you
then
have a
finally,
good meal and they put a little bit of
that?
spice on it, and you're like, you have a good meal, and they throw a little bit of spice on it. It's not like crazy spice. You're like, oh, that's nice. Like, I don't know. It doesn't, it's not like acetylcholine or anything super intense, like a big dose of tyrosine, but I guess just a little bit more focus from it. Like,
Right.
you know, it's nice.
Exactly. And then finally, Huperzine A to help prevent the breakdown of your acetylcholine from the acetylcholine that you've added. So we have, and then if you go all the way up top, so we have like very well-rounded, energy focused, serious pump, even the bronchodilation that gets me excited. You have like a lot of stuff in here. This is a 24.5 gram serving size at 2 scoops. And then above, we also have 100 milligrams of sodium coming from sea salt. But to balance it out a little bit, you do have 72 milligrams of potassium from the potassium glycinate that I think Dave's been formulating a little bit into the core products lately. So I like to see potassium next to sodium. If you start looking at the mechanisms, potassium is very helpful for the vasodilation mechanism. So it's good to see there, but it's just 72 milligrams, 2% of daily value. It's not going to be the biggest thing, but we do notice that. And one of my theories is that we are taking too many things that either smash potassium, or we're just not eating enough potassium foods and too much sodium. I don't think people need to lower sodium, especially not athletes. I love sodium. I think we need to find ways to stop killing our potassium and or to take more. Because like if you're not eating certain foods, you're not eating like, potatoes, bananas, you're already like, it's tough to get in that much potassium. So I'll take potassium anywhere, anytime. 2%, sure. So that's my breakdown of your label. I'm not sure what exactly like the idea here was, but like it's impressive. Like obviously pumps are a key thing here. So like you kept the energy blend, but you really, really leveled up pumps.
Yeah, I mean that's the cool thing with Julian. He really does focus on stretching out the muscle, getting the most blood flow out of it. So making it as authentic to what he would take is really the key there. So definitely going to be a lot of pumps. No, you do not have to stack daily pump with this. So I think at that aspect, you get a deal, right? Like it's a $60 pre-workout, but you're not buying harness and daily pump to achieve these results. And I do think even if you were to stack them, you're still getting somewhat of a decent pre-workout to really enjoy your workout.
So were you beta testing it? Were you part of that? Or
when
you're traveling around, like what's your gym situation in the first place, to get back to you? And like, did you beta test this while you're moving around?
Yeah. So, I mean, I try to get to HQ twice a month, roughly, for a few days. So I'll get some baggies and I'll take it with me. That way I can kind of test out whether I get to the gym in the mornings or in the evenings. I test out whether, I can get to sleep afterwards, things like that, especially around my diet. So since I'm so consistent with my diet current day, I can really test out, well, did I just eat this at this time, or is that why I felt better? It's really testing the pre-workout based upon my diet now. And yeah, I mean, it'll always be a little bit different, but this I've been training on consistently the last month.
So with something like this, did you have like any kind of step-by-step that you could walk us through, like what happened from harness to harness evolution? Like what was the first concept, or were there different iterations on this? Like what was the process like?
There was honestly, I want to say about 2. Over on the core side, Jug was working on something. Can't say what that is. And we kind of incorporated it into arms race. There has been an ask, right? Like there's an ask for retailers right now to have the $60 pre-workout. We have a more educated customer base that doesn't have a problem spending the money for these things. So that was more. It's just giving people what they have asked for and doing it in a way that's more authentic to us. So there wasn't really harness, it's not enough. Harness is enough. But there is that customer base that wants a higher, I wouldn't say higher stem, but more of an ingredient packed pre-workout based upon the growing education on the consumer.
And I would even say that if you buy this product, you can make it stretch out if you use just 1 scoop at a time for some workouts and 2 for other, or, maybe some workouts you're taking 1 scoop with daily pump and other times you're taking 2 scoops or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's very versatile in the dosing, like Mike was saying at the beginning, which I totally agree with. You get a lot of clinical doses off that just 1 scoop.
Yeah.
That's that second scoop makes a big difference, especially with like all the nitrogen you get and all the caffeine you get. But that product's actually pretty versatile. Let me ask you, so modern science, old school grit, this whole concept for arms race, formulations of pre-workouts are not something that we expect influencers to understand. And that's just being nice about it. Like I don't expect Julian to know what the newest acetylcholine study is or any of that kind of stuff. It's not really his prerogative, but you guys brought him to supply side this year.
Yeah.
Was any part of that like introducing him to ingredients and understanding that a little bit better? Or what was that like?
So Julian actually does a pretty good job with if he doesn't know something, I'll get a text.
Cool.
He's very much, I would say, in tune with what we're doing. And if there's a new ingredient that comes out he doesn't know, it's a chance to teach him what it does. That dude has so much on his plate. So the fact that he even cares is amazing as an influencer. Because yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. There's a lot of influencers out there that it's their face on it.
Yeah.
Which I said that I'm going to tease a flavor for Evolution because it's my favorite since I said face. So I'm just going to leave it here. So this is a new label for Evolution. We're not going to say what flavor it is, but I love it. But yeah, I mean, he does his best to try to understand the science behind it as well.
It's funny because like it's okay to me because what his responsibilities are and like what our responsibilities are, like it doesn't really help them to know every single ingredient coming out, but seeing him walk around supply side, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool because you don't really see a lot of brand owners at supply side. You might see a Doug Miller, someone who's heavily invested. You don't usually see the influencer owner walking around, even though maybe I'm just a nerd. I think it's wildly interesting to getting to see the stuff that we consume every day. So seeing him get more involved, that's it. I mean, I think it's pretty cool. I understand though that a lot of times the bodybuilding crowd and the supplement crowd tend to disagree on a lot.
Yes. Well,
So.
you even got to see because we're very blessed, right? Like our manufacturer is right next to us. So I mean, you even got to see Julian going over to our manufacturer for the first time.
Yeah.
And just having a blast. And he's asking questions. He's on point. Oh, what does this do? And he definitely wants to be more involved and learn as much as he possibly can.
I mean, to me, it's always seemed ridiculous that those people are not as interested as we are, because like to me, it's like going to the Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, getting to see where the magic is made. I mean, that's just cool to me. So I guess this is kind of the part where we start to try to get stuff out of you about going forward from here. Harness Evolution, we talk about launch dates and what the plan is with it and where it goes from there.
So I feel like we've been quiet so far this year. We're doing this what's today, February 2nd?
2nd,
yeah.
So we have not launched a new product yet this year. During the Arnold, we will have 3 flavors of Evolution. So we will launch 3 flavors of Evolution. You can buy it exclusively that day. And just a fun little tease, if you cannot make it to the Arnold, you will not have to pay full price for it online that weekend as well.
Cool.
So there will be a good sale. Plug your code for it because I think it'll still work, so they can get even cheaper. PricePlow code. But yeah, I mean, we always do a nice sale for the Arnold as well. So if you're there, awesome, you're gonna get the best possible deal on it. And if you're not there, you're still gonna get a pretty good deal online. So at least initially, you will never have to spend the $59.99 on it that weekend.
Awesome. Cool. And so you've been pretty quiet in January, but there were a couple of things announced for this year that are already out there that I can kind of maybe poke you with. Harness Evolution is coming, which we know about, but also a couple of things were announced about your bars. We haven't seen bars in a little bit. I mean, we've been enjoying the cinnamon one like crazy,
dude.
But
good. It's like ridiculous.
I think it was mentioned Frosted Flakes coming next.
Yes. So there will be. I'm trying to think which ones will actually make it to the Arnold. All 3
it's not
flavors.
Be careful with what you say here. It's inspired off of sugar coated cornflake cereal type cereal.
Yeah, I'll actually here. Wait a minute. Let me actually read what they're officially called. so we get this completely right.
Yeah.
They are not collaborated flavors, although Arms Race secretly is working on a collaboration that is pretty cool. But we got frosted crunch cereal, which
Okay.
would be your frosted flakies,
Okay.
and then fruity cereal. The fruity cereal will be exclusive at Vitamin Shop initially to launch.
Cool.
So I believe that's April, those hit stores. But all three, the cinnamon, the frosted, and the fruity, will be in Vitamin Shop on shelves April.
Wow. Okay. A lot coming. January. Okay. April. We got a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Did we get to beta test any of that?
Some of those were there when we tried that.
Originally, we should have them into February, so I'll have Mr. Reinecke send you guys some.
Oh,
We'll have the
nice.
finished product.
I was going to say, I was told that it has still the one that we tried is not the same as what we're going to get. They've actually changed
Correct.
a decent amount in that time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's the feedback been with those bars? Is everything still going well with them? Like besides me going insane over the cinnamon, are they doing well at the stores? Like people being good feedback?
They're doing well. And I'll just be open about this. Unfortunately, we did so well with cinnamon that I think in comparison to the chocolate, the chocolate's phenomenal, but like cinnamon is just so good. So we are seeing this aspect of cinnamon's flying off the shelves because if you're picking between just two, you're either a chocolate lover, more of a vanilla lover. You're grabbing the cinnamon. It melts in your mouth. We are redesigning the chocolate to be a little bit more milkier. But yeah, they're doing extremely well. We're in I want to say select gold gyms across America, but they are in distribution. But mostly every corporate gym, Gold's Gym across America has them current day as well. So if you guys see them, that you're listening to this, go try them out. They're phenomenal, and the macros are pretty awesome as well. That again, that's another aspect of what we tried to really meet with Julian. He's a macro counter, and we didn't go with sugar alcohols in these. There's sugar in these, but the macros are so unique that you can fit these into your diet.
Yeah, it's a real meal. Like,
Do you know any of the basis of using the pea protein in there?
It was more so just for the texture of it.
Okay, because that might have been part of how it's working so well with the cinnamon. I don't know, but whatever you did, it worked.
It's the crunch factor. There's three forms of protein in there. You got some vegan crisps. You got that's what the pea protein is. You got collagen aspect to it, and then you got a whey aspect to it. So you're getting three sources.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the cinnamon is like a spice that like pops out of it.
Yeah.
And the chocolate, if it was on its own, I would love it, but it does not have a pop factor like the cinnamon does. The pop is the chocolate is delicious.
The chocolate
deep
to me,
chocolate.
Yeah, it's like a dark chocolate Rice Krispie treat.
Yeah,
or I would say like a Cocoa Puff, like that feeling you get when you bite into like that's exactly what it's compared to. And so we nailed authenticity to what it was, but just again in comparison, cinnamon
pops out like you bite that flavor and it like coats your whole mouth. When you bite into the chocolate, like it's definitely like a Cocoa Puff. It's a deep chocolate. It's not a milk chocolate. It's not anything that pops, and it's just kind of funny because like it's delicious on its own, but then you try the cinnamon, you're like, God damn, that is so good.
That's what we do events now, and we have them side by side, cut up for people to grab. And I'm always like, let's try the chocolate first.
Yeah.
Because I want you to enjoy the chocolate. Because the chocolate's great if you've never had the cinnamon. Then you have the cinnamon, and you're like, okay, this is what I want to eat now. So kind of trying to be more strategic about how people operate those.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, if you start with the chocolate, it's gonna be great. I would still buy the chocolate afterwards. But if you give me that cinnamon first, I'm gonna buy 2 boxes of that cinnamon.
Well, that's what I'm excited because I think the first ones you guys got to try, we had the beta samples at last year's Arnold.
Yeah.
And then this year we'll have 5 flavors.
Awesome.
So it's really cool to watch the growth of that as well.
So you're gonna have a pop-in booth then in terms of product. Like you're gonna have a bunch of flavors of Evolution and a bunch of different bars. Are the bars gonna be beta samples at the Arnold or finished?
I don't believe they should be finished because with these rolling out into Vitamin Shop so soon, they should be the finished ones.
Wow, very cool. That's a nice expansion. That's really doing well.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, then my last question for you, because I really don't have anything else. This has been great. I'd love to ask just like your involvement. You're obviously the guy at Arms Race, but I see you now at Nutrition Corners meetings. I see you with Core. I see you doing a lot of other stuff. How has your life expanded as part of Crush It Brands?
I think you're going to see more of a crossover. At the end of the day, I would say everybody under that roof is a family. And I think I said at the beginning of this, we just want to win. We all have different aspects of life. Like, I always joke that, Arms Race is Doug's alter ego of, this other side of him back in college. And we're all kind of that way, right? Like, there's not just one fell swoop. Like, this is how you are. There's just different moods that people get in. There's different aspects that make humans humans. So even though I think by design, I am completely Arms Race the way I am, the way I dress. I am probably more mentally that Crush It lifestyle at this point in my life. And, when I go into vitamin shops, I still talk about Core because it's such an awesome story. And if there was never Core, Arms Race would not exist. So I love telling, when I go into vitamin shops now, like at the core of Arms Race is Core Nutritionals because that's how it started. So yeah, like even in the manager meetings, I think me and Patrick have really divulged into these leadership roles with trying to help people. When I was with GNC, I was telling Patrick this last night. When I was with GNC, I got to watch people grow. That was my absolutely favorite part, hiring people in, training managers, watching them grow. So I like to think that I have helped in a positive way on the Nutrition Corners aspect as well. I just try to be wherever I'm needed, and hopefully my skill set can kind of help people in the future, no matter what avenue it is, whether it's Arms Race, whether it's a new brand next year. It's whatever I can be of service to. I truly just try to help out all along.
Very awesome. Cool. Is Columbus, Ohio going to stay your home for the foreseeable future? Because that's obviously. Did I open a can of worms?
If I answer this, Doug is going to be like, "When you moving to North Carolina?"
Oh yeah.
So overall, I do have a 6-year-old daughter. That's in the thought process. I have 50-50 custody. If I were to get full custody, I will probably end up in North Carolina sooner or later. But yeah, it's all divulging on that. So no matter what, I'm in Columbus on the weekends. I feel like I'm never there. So
right, yeah.
I'm at HQ a lot. I feel like I have a good balance current day with where I'm at. And with what I do, I'm not really needed in one area right now.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah, I spent 5 years in Columbus and loved it. But when we visited in North Carolina, there was definitely something special to that area. So, and maybe it was just because we had a great trip just with the guys. So sometimes it's
weird. I've
been back.
It's every time you walk out your hotel and you smell the air in the morning. You're like, this is nice. I like this.
Yeah.
There's this next time you guys come out in the morning. Like yes. No, you're not. You're like, that's not even a joke. Like the morning is crisp there.
Yes.
It is different and it's nice.
At some point you guys got to probably come out on Doug's boat. That's the experience. Just on the lake and, watching Doug surf is another aspect of just, you just look around. You're like, okay, I could live here. This is nice.
Yeah. Or driving from the airport to Core, we drove past that lake and I was like, I could buy a house here for sure.
Yeah.
Like because Julian was staying at that Airbnb that night. We dropped the swing dogs off at, and just like being in that area, I was like, oh, I could definitely find myself living here. Like this is, it's like Ozarks, but more civilization,
Not that I don't love the city out there. I'm definitely more of a woods person. So it's like North Carolina, you get that nice little balance. You can go to Charlotte and be in the city, but at the end of the day, the lake, the woods, that's more our vibe.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I got nothing else. Mike, you got anything?
No, this has been awesome. This is what I was.
Man, you're not even going to ask about the RTDs? That's okay.
Oh, I guess I got to ask about. You know what? I should have opened up my computer thing here. Let me get to this.
I talked about it on that one video. You're right. I completely forgot to bring that up.
So let's talk about. I guess we have to talk about RTDs.
I mean, we don't have to.
RTD. No, that's a bullet point. My bad. wasn't looking at my notes. I got too overwhelmed into the cereal bars. So what's the story with the RTDs?
Doug is really hoping for Q2. They sample tested. I have not sample tested them yet. Hopefully next week. But all I will say is Doug's voice is very high when he tried these. He's very excited with the taste. We got the ingredients down, so it's a finished product. Working on some bottle designs now and picking the right look. But Doug's hoping for Q2.
Okay,
right.
is this a still or a carbonated type drink?
It is still. So we are moving into pre-workout. It'll be a harness RTD.
Okay, and will it be more like harness or more like harness evolution, or is it completely its own thing?
That's actually a really good question. It'll be more like regular harness.
Right. Okay. Sweet.
But
And
you just gave me an idea.
Ooh.
So there.
Good. All right. So it's yet to be determined.
Cool. Well, if you have any other tips to give us on what to ask you about for the rest of the podcast, feel free to speak up.
I'm an open book when I get asked the right question. No, I think that's pretty much everything we got going on the next couple months. A lot of cool stuff down the line. A lot of cool stuff we're working on. Yeah, there's one thing I would love to say, but I can't. But I'm so excited about it.
We'll have to get you back on, catch up with you.
Yeah, get me in like 2 months, and I promise what we are working on will be the first in our space, and it involves technology. Like I'm so excited about it. Dave Reinecke poking people really paid off. We got in contact with the right people that are also working on the Super Bowl coming up. So I'm excited. It's fun.
Awesome.
Very
Is this
cool.
gonna be a new humidor?
No, it is.
You used to have a humidor on the website, didn't you?
Oh, wait.
He travels with it.
I travel with it.
Yes.
So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, they're good.
Bring that back. So is this better or worse than a humidor? Your new technology idea?
Way better. It involves
Right.
product. It will involve a collaboration, and it will involve virtual reality.
Very cool.
Very cool.
All right.
No one said that in the space, have they? Innovation. Can you add like sprinkles as I did that? That'd be cool.
We'll get Cody on it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cody.
I think the only other thing I want to bring up is we talked about getting me in for a road trip to the Midwest with you to go to this visit Julian and the Sween Dogs.
Yeah.
And I think that you, me, a camera, and the van would be the funniest collaboration of Arms Race and PricePlow. It would be just priceless. Priceless PricePlow. But we got to get around to that at some point.
Yeah. Honestly, I was looking at I thought about March, but I would like to line it up with one of Julian's open gyms.
Oh yeah.
So drive across America, whether you wanted to fly to Ohio or you wanted me to pick you up in New Jersey and drive you to Oregon. Either one's cool. We can do it in 3 days. I listen to a lot of pop punk. I'm sorry, but yeah, totally. I'm totally down for that. I think it'd be a blast.
Mike, you got to meet, like, actually in depth meet the Arms Race crew at some point. It is really we always say like, oh, it's our people, but like you meet these guys and you're like, this is like, just like kind of Dave was saying, it's always like our people. It's just a different mood. It's very cool that they lift like hard, but they listen to good music, they like good food, and it's just a family. It is really something different getting to see them in action. So hopefully at the Arnold this year. It seemed like last year I got to spend some time with the Arms Race crew, so maybe we can do that again.
Yeah, Mike, are you there for the Arnold this year?
Yes, we are booked
Awesome.
up. Mhm.
Awesome.
So we'll find some time. Awesome.
We will see you.
We'll go get some tacos.
Let's do
Last
it.
time we just sat around the fire at your hotel and smoked cigars,
Yeah,
which was actually really funny. But tacos, actually, that sounds great.
it was a good spot. Condados in Columbus. Shout out. It's delicious.
Nice.
Cool. All right. Well,
I'm
thanks
in.
so much for your time, David.
Awesome, man. Yeah, anytime. I'm always available for you guys.
Yeah, you want to list off Instagram?
At Arms Race Nutrition, at David Dodrill, at Doug Miller Pro.
Well done.
Your TikTok
That's
is the
pretty good.
arms race van, right?
Yeah, it's arms race mobile, I think. It's the arms race. Listen, we're still getting into TikTok. It's a weird word out there.
Yeah,
I
believe me,
try to
I
stay up to
understand.
date on it, but yeah, it's me. I run the TikTok, the unofficial TikTok. It's not really real, but it's arms race, so it's great.
Cool. All right. Well, then we'll hopefully be talking maybe in another 2 months to talk about some collabs and virtual reality.
Absolutely, I
innovation.
appreciate you guys.
Cool. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.